Hey, Joe Soto here, and welcome to the Not Your Average Joe Show. I have a question for you. Are you ready for a quantum leap in clients, revenue, and impact? Well, today I've got a special guest. I have David Horsager, who's with us. He's one of the most dynamic business advisors in the world, and he's recognized globally as the expert on the subject of trust. He's going to pull back the curtain and reveal a proven coaching and leadership system that has helped thousands of entrepreneurs and organizations around the world solve their biggest problems and gain lasting results. David is the CEO of Trust Edge Leadership Institute. He's a trust expert in residence at High Point University, and he's a Wall Street Journal best-selling author of the book Trust Edge, and he's got a new book coming out. Can't wait for you guys to learn about it. His work's been featured in all the prominent media, such as Fast Company, Forbes, and MSNBC. He advises leaders and has delivered presentations on 6 different continents with audiences ranging from FedEx to Toyota to MIT and global governments to the New York Yankees and the Department of Homeland Security. David's with us. I'll be right back with you.
This is the Not Your Average Joe Show, where each week we bring you sales, marketing, and mindset strategies you need to get to your next level. And now, here's your host, international business mentor, Joe Soto.
David Horsager is in the house. David, welcome to the show, man.
Joe, thanks so much for having me. Appreciate you.
I'm so excited to have you here. You and I go way back into in the day of having met with our original mentor, Harvey Mackay, for the Harvey Mackay Roundtable, and to see what you've achieved since the time I first met you and the growth of your business, your brand, to see the evolution of the books that you put out. I'm pumped. My audience, they don't even know what they have in front of them right now in terms of what they're going to learn today. You have a new book coming out called The Trusted Leader, The 8 Pillars That Drive Results. And I want to talk about some of the principles in the book. So if somebody chose not to buy the book, they would get some incredible value today. Is that okay?
That's fine. It's
okay.
We'll give it all away.
Give me the background. What's the story? What's the big deal about trust, and where did this book come from?
You know, I started researching trust when very few were at all, over, almost 2 decades ago. Basically, I had this epiphany that the issue they think they have is not a leadership issue, it's a trust issue. The issue they think they have is they think it's a sales issue. It's not. The reason people don't buy is because they don't trust them. They think they have a marketing issue. The only way to amplify a marketing message is trust. The only, these diversity issues of our day, the biggest Harvard study shows diversity on its own pits people against each other unless you increase trust. So whether your number one question everybody's asking about you, about your marketing, about your message, about your leadership, whether it's your spouse, partner, friend, or your kids, they're asking, can I trust you? And that's way higher than being liked. It's not people, we buy from people we like. I got friends I like a lot. I wouldn't go into business with in a million years. So we kept finding that trust was the number one driver. And then in our research, we put out one of the biggest studies on trust and leadership every year. And our annual global study kept finding the number one reason people want to work for an organization, ahead of being paid more, ahead of a more fun work environment with a ping pong table, they want to trust their leadership. Trusted leadership was number one. So basically what we found is people want to either be a trusted leader or they want to follow a trusted leader. And so this book came, and it's really fun. It's a great story up front that shifts thinking about trust. We think we know it all about trust. It's like, it's just vulnerability and transparency. No, some of your kids are so transparent on Facebook, I don't trust them for a second. Confidentiality is also trusted. We got to shift thinking about trust, and then we got to see how we can use it to grow and affect change.
So my mind's a little bit blown how fast you just went through all that, because I think there's a lot of people who are watching, who are listening, who they kind of know instinctively how important trust is, but they don't see it or understand it as a driver in an organization. And you say something that is kind of a common theme across your books. I know you're also a world-class speaker, and I've had a chance to see you speak. I was at the National Speakers Association and went to your workshop and got a chance to see you. I'm not sure if you remember that. Back when we could speak on the stages and go, and mix in public. That you say that it's a company's biggest expense. It's an entrepreneur's biggest expense. We have a lot of solopreneurs who are listening and watching. and may not realize how much of an expense it is.
Here's the problem. The problem is most people, entrepreneurs or leaders, are solving the wrong problem. They don't see it as the root issue. And it's always the root issue is always a trust issue. And a lack of trust is always the biggest cost in the bottom line. It always is. Let's just take all the research out of it and just think simply, a lock. Why do I put a lock on anything? Because I don't trust you. So that's a lack of trust, symbolically a lack of trust. So what is the cost of having a lock on something? Well, the money, I got to buy the lock.
Yeah.
The bigger cost, though, is time. Now I got to open it every time. Or text someone you trust. How long does that take? Blip. Now try to text someone you don't trust. Oh, how are they going to take this? How are they going to take that? It costs time. There's always a cost. We kept seeing trust was the driver. When trust went up, we could affect attrition, retention, cost, loyalty. Trust was the leading indicator and the number one driver. And if people can start to see that trust is always the root issue, they can solve it. If they keep saying it's leadership, it's communication, it's engagement, trust drives engagement. The pillars of trust drive the communication they're talking about. Trust drives retention, sales, whatever.
Brilliant. So you talk about using different types of trust tools in organizations, and you talk about activating and kickstarting trust. Mm-hmm. And what this does is it brings tangibility to the word. Like you could actually, it's not just a broad concept. It's actually a something you can work on, and here's a tangible way to do it. There's actually actionable things you can do. So what do you mean by kickstarting trust in an organization? I know you have almost like a pyramid in the book kind of showing the ascension of that. But maybe you can share and shed a little light for the listeners.
Sure. First of all, a misnomer is people think trust is something you either have or you don't. Well, that person either has it or they don't. They either have it or they don't. It's not true. It's something you can actively build. You can build it into your leadership, your marketing, your sales. And when you do, you've just hit the key driver. So you have to think differently about trust. And it is bigger than you think. As you know, the whole book is built in this 8-pillar framework, these 8 components of trust. But the little kickstart is you've got to see it as the root cause. So you have to see it. You have to confront reality. You have to see the root cause, which is one of the 8 pillars or a mix of them. And then you have to apply the trust tools. And that's a simple little process for how you do it. You see the root issue, and then you can confront reality, see the root issue, and apply the tool. And that's the quick, simple process. And that common language is those 8 pillars, because you can, I know it sounds, I hate it when consultants come in and like, oh, I know it all. It's all, this is always how it is. I'm telling you, without ego, with a whole lot of research and work on 6 continents, it always is a trust issue. And you can solve every leadership and organizational issue against these 8. These 8 were just through triangulated revalidation, just revalidated as the 8 ways trust is built globally by an outside university. PhDs have been built on them. If they can see it as one of these 8, they actually have a chance at solving the real issue. Let me do a quick example here. So people say, we got a communication issue. They never do. Communication is happening all the time. Clear communication is trusted. Unclear communication is not. Compassionate communication is trusted. Hateful communication isn't. Consistent is, inconsistent isn't. So, when you define it against these 8, you actually can solve the issue of engagement, sales, whatever.
Wow, this is a whole paradigm shift for how people think about approaching to solve problems. So what you're suggesting is that this is a problem-solving strategy, because you just made a pretty big claim, which is all organizational problems can be traced back to one of the 8 pillars of the framework that you share in the book. By the way, if you don't have the book yet, I'm going to put up here an opportunity for you to go and get it. You can go to trustedleaderbook.com/Soto and
get a bunch of extras with that.
But by the way, as of the time that we're recording this, it's not out yet. Right. It comes out when? March
30th.
So
yeah, March 30th. I wanted to make one quick thing about what you said is, hey, this doesn't mean it's easy. And it doesn't mean I know everything about your issue or challenge or anything like that. I'm just know from our work with global governments, corruption issues, pro sports teams like the Yankees, Rockies, just from companies, big companies, small companies. We have certified folks on 6 continents. I'm just saying, that you can solve against these 8. So once you understand these 8, you can actually solve against those. I'm not saying I know it all or that it's easy. Right. I'm just saying that actually you can solve the right problem when you understand these 8. And that's a good place to start.
Understand these 8 helps you understand the problem.
Right.
Like Absolutely. You said, you don't have a communication problem because clear communication is trusted communication.
Right.
It's
a clarity issue or a compassion issue or a consistency issue. It's not a communication issue.
And so it also, in addition to being a problem-solving model, this is brilliant, and I think every entrepreneur should have this framework in their repertoire, but is also a decision-making framework too for leadership, for entrepreneurs, alike. So to share a little bit about that, like how does this help decision makers make decisions?
Well, when you understand these 8, you can solve against them or you can grow using them. So you can define, like, let's say marketing. I can look at a marketing message and I can say, okay, is it trusted or not? Is this going to resonate with my audience? Well, I can go through the framework, and there are more subtleties. Look, I talk about each of these pillars for a full day, so it's not that. I share a lot of this in the book, but under the is it clear? Absolutely clear in the way we talk about clarity. Okay, that's pillar number 1. Is it compassionate? Do we show care for our audience? Okay, that's pillar number 2. Does it reflect the character we want? Does it show, does it build a connection with the audience in a certain way? So I can run through the 8 and I can decide, is that message going to hit? Whether it's a leadership message, a marketing message, or, or a product or brand or whatever, but I can make decisions of where we're going to resource against the 8 for the outcome we want to have, right?
Yeah. What do you say to? Yes, and I love how you just ran through some of the pillars that quickly, because obviously this is your world, and tied it to real life examples. What do you say to the leader out there working in a small to large company, or an entrepreneur who's working from home trying to build their business, who just takes trust kind of lightly and says, listen, people trust me already. I'm a trusted authority. And I have never had any complaints. So why is this a big deal or something I should learn?
Well, I would say, first of all, from my experience, trust is more it's bigger than you think. It's more important, and it's a little more complex sometimes. And when you shift your thinking about trust, you have a chance at growing exponentially. This is that whole idea. Like, for some of you, you think, oh, we buy from people we like. I said it already. You don't. I like people a whole lot. That it doesn't mean that that's not part of it, but I've got friends I like a lot I wouldn't go into business with in a million years, right? Because I don't trust them. You have to think differently about trust. You have to make decisions, marketing decisions, leadership decisions, make them on trust, not some of these other things. When you hit the trust driver, you can see, you might say, I want my referrals to go up. There's only one way to increase your net promoter score or NPS score, and that is not with more referrals. The only way is to increase trust. So you increase one of these pillars, you increase your net promoter score, you increase your sales. We've had people say with one of the ideas under this 8-pillar framework, they tripled sales in 90 days. I can tell you this, the truth is in the book of when I lost 52 pounds in 5 months and it's one of the ideas under that clarity pillar. So I would just say you have to think bigger about trust and see it as the core issue. When you do that and you understand the common language, the 8-pillar framework, and then you understand a few tools, just a few ways you can build trust. Simple, clear, not necessarily easy in every situation, but simple, clear tools, because I knew that I would only use it if it was simple and clear. I'm a farm kid. I love the research, but I need to have stuff that I can use tomorrow morning. When I have tangible tools I can use to build trust tomorrow morning, then I would see growth in impact and income. So I just think, number one, you have to see it differently and see. If you see trust as the root issue, you start to solve the real issue and grow your company and business and sales.
When I read your first book called The Trust Edge, which I want to talk about how this is different. Again, the new book, Trusted Leader, I think is the next level of some of these principles, and it's awesome. But when I first read it, I thought this is a mental shift. This is a mindset book first and foremost, because you have to wrap your mind around what you just said. That you have to, learning how to think bigger about trust and learning how to think about trust in a much different way. And that's what you've done for the world, by the way. I think this is one of your biggest contributions is you've taken a word that people just have taken for granted. They kind of use it in conversation. They don't have this type of framework to think about it, and you've given them a way to think about it in a more purposeful, useful way that can help them, like you just said, solve again some of their biggest problems and use it to grow, which I loved when you said it that way, because if I could interview 100 CEOs right now or 100 entrepreneurs, and if I said, give me what you think is the number one way to grow your business, the word trust may not come out of their mouth out of all 100.
Which is the problem.
Which is the problem, right? So I love that. And you're solving a big problem with this. And so I just know the mindset sometimes, because I was in this mindset, and I'm sharing it with people who are listening. Be careful how you misunderstand this word and how you neglect using it as a growth strategy, as a problem-solving strategy. And quite honestly, it's not just for, here's the secret. It's not just for business leaders, is it? It's for parents too. You're a parent. I'm a parent.
Well, this is the passion.
And you've sneaked it in a couple of times when you were talking earlier, but go ahead.
Well, I mean, I have had people say to me, I can remember this one tough guy, teary-eyed, came up to me and said, he heard me a year earlier than back at the annual sales meeting that year I was, and he said, I just wanted you to know in the last year, this work, it helped me triple my sales, but way more importantly, it saved my marriage. Now, I don't mind if people are affected personally or, what do we know? We know this. We know organizations don't change. Countries don't change. Only individuals change. But when an individual changes, then a team, a company, a country can change. So I love this. But let me just say, Joe, you start back with that grad work and that epiphany 20 years ago almost. And then you start using it in companies and it actually worked. And that was kind of a big deal for some people. And then you sort of along the way, why am I passionate about this? It changed me. It changed my parenting, my leadership, and the way I see even the world and the root issues and how to grow people and organizations. So that's probably why I'm so passionate about, because I get to see it every day. And of course, with my kids at home, 4 kids and my wife and all that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's the cool stuff. I mean, this is, you're living and breathing this in your personal and professional life. And, there's a lot of talk about, work-life balance and all this, but at the end of the day, if you're doing what you're passionate about, great. But this is the root cause of the issues in both sides of your world are rooted in this, and what you call it that. You call it the root cause in the book, and you reference it that way. I noticed you structured the actionable half of the book in a unique and interesting way. Can you tell us, the readers, about that a little bit in their anticipation of getting the book?
Yeah. Hey, it was really fun. This is really cool. And the reviews have been just, in spite of me, been great. It's really fun. The first half of the book is a business parable, a story to shift thinking about trust, those ways that we thought we knew it all. Even I did when I started the grad work. Oh, it's just transparency or vulnerability. It's not. The trusted leader has to be transparent as they can while being as confidential as they ought, or seeing how it's the root cause or matters, or thinking, oh, it takes a long time to build trust. You can't do that overnight. It takes a long time. And yet, in a crisis like 9/11 in America, complete strangers trust each other in a moment if they're running the same direction. A whole lot of trust is built and lost in a moment. Or we can think confidence is trusted. That can be, unless it leads to arrogance, which isn't. Or I extend more trust to my team, I'll get more out of them. Until I extend too much, that's a problem. So we have to kind of just in a really cool short parable, we take this journey of an entrepreneur who basically saves his company with trust through a guide, and just a fun, really cool situation that actually many of the parts of that are true, inspired from true stories where I sat and watched situations happen in a boardroom and some other things. So that's inspiring opening. And the second half is actionable tools a leader can use tomorrow morning. The SPA method under the compassion pillar of how to create an appreciative environment. The how method, that method I told you under clarity that we've seen people triple sales, and I lost 52 pounds in 5 months. The very specific, the trust shield under the connection pillar. I mean, we often hear the most powerful activity for leaders to use, and we put it right in the book so people can use it. So the second half is that 8-pillar framework that came out of the research. It's denoted by C words as far as the research funnels for clarity, but don't be thinking it's some just motivational using C words. It came out of this research piece, and they can be used tomorrow morning. These actionable strategies. So, and that gets to the difference between Trust Edge. Trust Edge was 365 pages. It was born in my original research, over a decade ago. And by the way, we made that actionable. That's still selling. When I sent that to the first agent, there were 200 more pages, and the agent was like, well, people want to know you did the research, but they would cut that out of it, right? So that's a little organizational, little more, still very actionable and usable. This book, we said, we want something people that don't read as much, or they want quick action takeaways. It's shorter, it's quicker, and those takeaways under the 8 pillars are something a leader can use tomorrow morning. So that's a little bit more the difference. You're muted, Joe.
I was muted. Sorry. The first half of the book helps you adopt the mindset,
right?
And the second half of the book helps you apply it and gives you the how-to, and the way that you've done it and structured it is really cool, by the way. And some people do either or, right? It's like, here's a whole book of a parable, and good luck, here's a few lessons. Here's a few lessons at the end of each chapter of the parable, and you're trying to connect the dots.
That's exactly why we did it that way. Shift the mindset, and then now solve with it.
That's right. And when you say solve with it, he just so everyone's listening, he gives you, like he said, tools. Now, it's hard to understand that. Like you mentioned real quickly, you said the trust shield. He actually gives you the trust shield framework and exercises and application in the book. And you took it, you didn't just write a book about why and how, you wrote a book about why and what. You wrote a book about why, what, and how. And gave people real life scenarios and situations they could apply it to. And I think that's masterful in how you put this together. And you're obviously, that your publisher knows that's why you're rising even further in your career right now. It's in the middle of a crisis. You're helping to solve a really big issue. And I think in the moment of crisis, this book is probably one of the most needed books right now, because have we ever been in a time in history where trust wasn't more discussed or needed?
Trust matters more than ever. People say, oh, that's so timely. The truth is, it's also timeless. It always has been important. But I'll tell you the opportunity right now. People say, well, when can I build trust the fastest? Is it in first interaction? That is a good time. Oh, build trust now. To people in sales, first interaction. It's a good time. By far, your fastest opportunity to build trust is in crisis and change. You have an enormous, things are going to heck. Somebody's mad at you. They're frustrated. They're throwing chairs in the boardroom. You've got a customer ticked off. You have an immense opportunity to build trust faster in that moment of crisis than any other time. Think about George W. Bush. When was he most trusted in the U.S. as president? It was the week after 9/11. His ratings were highest. How he dealt with that situation in that first week. And so you have a huge opportunity, and change is not going away. So if you can respond in change in certain ways, you can build trust faster in change and crisis than any other time.
It's a timeless book as well, because for those reasons, change is inevitable. How you adapt and process it, you help people with. And I'm just want to applaud you on putting out something that's so special and so needed right now. If you're listening, go to trustedleaderbook.com/Soto. I'll make sure it's in the show notes as well. David, thanks so much for being my guest today. Can I have you back? Can you come
Absolutely.
back? The story continues, because I want to dig down and deep into some additional applications of this for our audience. So we'll have you back down the road. If you're listening to this, make sure you share this out with someone that you care about, because trust plays a major part in their lives as well. And I think every entrepreneur, I think every business leader, I think every parent. I don't say this very often on my show. Every parent should have the book, because you're a leader of your family. Moms and dads, mainly the moms. The moms and dads are the leaders of the family. And thank you so much for being a guest on the show, David.
Thank you, Joe.
TrustedLeaderBook.com/Soto. Share it out. We'll see everybody next time. Thanks for.
Tune in next week for the Not Your Average Joe Show with international business mentor Joe Soto.